So after spending a weekend with this thing, I'm convinced they named it Ryzen because that's what my blood pressure was doing as I tried to get this thing stable. I'm going to run a few passes of Cinebench while I tell you about the weekend I had with this thing. I settled on a 3.8 GHz overclock on my 1700X because it let me run a low voltage and keep the temperatures under control. Right now, there's a bunch of conflicting guesses for the temperature threshold, so I've been running off the general consensus of 75 Celsius. But Ryzen Master is the only thing that seems accurate at all, and even it's all over the place, and I'll actually show you in a minute it brings down the Cinebench score. Here's my temperatures throughout that test, and I'm running a Corsair H100i liquid cooler. This is what they peak at during gaming too, but my fans are set to spin higher once it gets to 71, so it really never goes over 73. But now watch what happens as I run another pass of Cinebench after I close Ryzen Master. My first run was at 1511. Also, fun fact, I had my voltage at about 1.27 for a while, but this is the only thing that caused it to be unstable, so I had to bring it up to what you're seeing now in CPU-Z. Now I have a score over 100 points higher, and I'm going to run that again just to make sure it wasn't a fluke. Okay, so I got 1627, which is about the same as last. About the same as last time. That's roughly equivalent to a stock 1800X, so I just saved $100, and honestly, I haven't seen how far I can push this chip. Odds are I'll probably keep it around what it's at now just because I really like how low the voltage is, because it's diminishing returns after that point. Now I'm going to speed up the single thread bench because it's about as fun to watch as the paint drying Olympics. While that's going on, I'm going to explain what I did for the memory. I'm running a Gigabyte AX370 Gaming 5 board, and XMP is completely fucking useless and wouldn't let my system post if I even tried it. In the end, I had to set my Vengeance LED 3000 MHz kit to 2933 with timings that were way higher than what it was rated for, and then I had to work my way down. Anything lower than what you see in the screenshot for CPU-Z means the system wouldn't post, so this is the best I could do. Now, I'm sure this is going to get better with BIOS fixes, but if you're hoping that Ryzen is smooth sailing right now, you might want to wait a month or two for them to iron out some of the bugs because you're probably going to have some headaches with it too. But here comes the fun part. I wanted to try a game or two in 1440p because if most people are spending almost half a grand on a processor, you've probably got the budget for a decent monitor too. Here's GTA 5 with all normal settings on high, no advanced settings, and anti-aliasing is off. Anything NVIDIA specific is off. And I'm going to run the benchmark to see just how bad of a bottleneck this processor is at 1440p. This is with a GTX 1080. I haven't overclocked it past what it was out of the box. It's a superclocked card, so it's a little overclocked. But I did crank up the power limit just to eliminate any power throttling. On the left, I've got the GPU usage and all 16 threads usage from Afterburner so we can see just how badly the 17X is holding the 1080 back, or if it is at all. Okay, so I'm going to speed this up a little bit. At the end, there's going to be a graph with the GPU usage for this benchmark, but now you're going to listen to me ramble for a little bit. Or if you're bored, you can just click up at the top and I'll put a link to the end. So I'd like to give a special middle finger to Amazon for completely botching up the Ryzen launch. I had this and a Crosshair 6 ordered about 20 minutes after the damn thing was on pre-order, and nobody knew when it would ship. So I was actually really close to picking up a 7700K. I had read the reviews. The gaming performance of Ryzen scared me a little bit. Not only that, nobody knew when the boards would ship, but I actually looked on Newegg right before I get onto work, and there were a couple boards, so I kind of hastily pre-ordered this. Nonetheless, the reviews still kind of scared me, but I realized that all of the benchmarks were on 1080p, and I get why. You're looking at a much cheaper processor than the 6900K, 6850, whatever else, so usually something in that budget has a pretty good chance of being accompanied by a 1080p monitor. But here's my thing. If you're gaming at 1080p, and the 7700K is a known quantity already, and it's already known to get better IPC than anything Broadwell E has to offer, and it's objectively the better gaming CPU, why are you looking at Ryzen for 1080p, assuming it's just going to mop the floor with something clocked over a gigahertz higher, with the ability to clock even higher than that? So I picked one up for 1440p gaming, knowing that the bottleneck would be a lot less. I'm still a little nervous, but that's what I'm trying to find out here, if it's really that big of a deal. My thoughts with the gaming performance deficit is that given enough time, it's probably going to buff out at least a little bit. We're actually to the point where you can get an 8-core, 16-thread processor for honestly the same price, if not $10 cheaper right now, than an i7, and the 1700's the popular choice. I feel like everything will be better optimized in the coming months, especially as DirectX 12, Vulkan, and all the low-level APIs gain wider adoption. Okay, so here's the curve after the run of GTA 5. You can see it's not bad for the most part. The only problem is when it gets to the city, it starts to go down a little bit, and that is an indication of a bit of GPU bottlenecking. But since I started doing this video, I actually did try this in 4K. Not that most people do 4K, but it gave me a solid 60 in similar situations. So yeah, it's not the best, but A, it's probably going to get better, and B, if you're doing higher resolutions than this still, it's not going to matter that much. You're still looking at similar performance to a 6900K. So now let's give Doom a shot. This is running in OpenGL. Honestly, I just kind of forgot to set it to Vulkan when I did the recording, and honestly, after looking at the performance after I was out of the benchmark, I'm kind of happy I did. I don't think it's that big of a difference. Everything's cranked up as high as it could be, and it's really funny that the performance metrics has a nightmare mode in that it's a nightmare of information, I guess. I honestly haven't gotten much of a chance to tinker around with this thing in the last week or so since I've had it because I've been working so much, but so far I'm really happy. I'll notice that the same thing that a lot of other reviewers are saying, in the games I've tried playing with this, they've been a lot smoother. Like, I had an i7 before, a 4790K, and it seemed... I mean, it wasn't anything crazy, but every now and then there'd be a little hiccup or a little stutter or something, especially in heavily multi-threaded games like GTA. And with this, they just don't exist. So I guess you have to take into account an X factor in games like that, something the numbers won't tell you. This is something you kind of have to see with your own eyes. And I'm not using that as a defense to say that Silicon Jesus has arisen or anything like that, because if you have to take into account performance metrics of a 7700K versus this, then that means that this isn't the objectively better processor in all situations. But what they've done is something that we haven't seen in a long time. Bulldozer was crap, Piledriver wasn't much better, but now for the first time in, 5 years now, they actually have a viable option that doesn't make me go, but it's not an Intel. And that alone, to me, is worthy of my money, because it's only going to get better from here. So here's the end result with Doom. Honestly, I was kind of impressed. The GPU hovered at 90+% all the time, and it looks like I might have forgot to turn off the power limit on this. I don't know. Afterburner's weird. But this hasn't been scientific or anything of the sort. It's just me trying out some games like I do in a normal everyday situation, and they're running fine. And keep in mind, I'm on a 1440p G-Sync monitor, and I'm looking to get over 60 FPS. I'm on a 144 Hz panel, and this thing isn't really letting me down. Honestly, I'd have to upgrade to a 1080 Ti or something to get actual 144 Hz, but this isn't making me go, I wish I had went with the Intel or anything. So let me know if there's any other benchmarks anybody wants me to run. I'd be more than happy to when I get the time, and just leave a note in the comments or something. Thanks.